So sorry for the delay. I'll let you take it away, Harry.
Okay. Hang on 1 second. Okay. Oops. Nope. All right, I'd like to call the regular meeting of the North Planning and Zoning Commission for Thursday, May 21st to order. And our regular members, Galdenze, DeFrancisco, Mace, and Dulac. Our first order of business is the meeting minutes from May 14th. Did everybody receive them?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Did you have a chance to look at them? Is there any?
I read them.
Yeah, no comments from me.
Okay. So as we said before, because we're doing this through Zoom, if you make them, let's start off with somebody make a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from May 14th, 2020. And this is Tricia Mace making the motion.
Is there a second?
I will second. Bill Galdenzi.
Okay.
Seconds.
Any discussion? Seeing no. Trish, how do you vote?
Tricia Mace votes yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Alex?
Sorry, I was just finishing reviewing them. I vote yes.
And I vote yes as well. That passes 4-0. Okay, so the next order of business is a public hearing for application 2020-4. So that's for Tilcon. Now, Carrie, would we decide we're going to continue that to the 4th?
So we have
We can go ahead.
representative Jim Preddy from Crisco Engineering and Christopher Costello representing Tilcon. So I'll let them answer that question.
We can proceed.
Okay. Now, Carrie, one thing, this is the first time we're doing a public hearing. So do we have to read the advertisement? If you have it, you have it? If you have it, you can, I mean, you can read it if you want to, or just.
I have it. I can read it.
Okay, Trish, please do.
Okay, legal notice for North Branford Planning and Zoning Commission. Notice is hereby given that the North Branford Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a virtual public hearing at 6:30 p.m. on Thursday, May 21st, 2020, that can be accessed via Totucket TV's Facebook page or via email, sending comments to public-comments@townofnorthbranfordconnecticut.com to consider the following. A, application 2020-3. Nope. Would I read the whole thing or just read part B that applies?
We do them both together.
Okay. All right. Application 2020-3, text amendment to section 42.5.1 of the North Branford zoning regulations to propose allowing septic systems and increasing the number of dwellings to 6 and the number of bedrooms to 2 for multiple dwellings in B1, B2, B3, and MBP districts. The North Branford zoning regulations in section 42.5.1 currently require all multiple dwelling units to be served by municipal sewers and limits the number of dwelling units to 5 in any building, and each unit is restricted to 1 bedroom. Applicant Edward F. Lawton IV. B, application 2020-4, map amendment to amend the North Branford zoning map to change the northernmost portion of the parcel at 1 Forest Road, aka Forest Road Rear, Totucket Mountain, from R80 zone to I2 zone. Applicant Tilcon Inc. Again, all interested parties may participate via Totucket TV's Facebook page or emailing comments to public-comments@townofnorthbranfordct.com. Copies of the proposals are on the town's website for public inspection. Harry Dulac, Chairman.
So one thing to note is that the R80 zone
AKA Forest Road Rear, Totucket Mountain, from R80 zone to I2 zone. Applicant Tilcon Inc. Again, all interested parties may participate via Totucket. delay.
Comments to
Okay.
public-comments@town-of-north-branford-ct.com. Copies of the proposals are on the town's website for public inspection.
Maybe should have gone mute or.
Nice job, Trish. Twice.
Just need to be center stage.
I was gonna say, whose mic's doing that?
I2 zone. Applicants will have
Somebody has something on in their background. If they have the live TV on in their background.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
So so the R80 is correct, the current zone, the application says to the I2 zone. So that was an error in on the agenda. It was corrected for the legal notice that was advertised. So I
Okay.
just wanted to note that.
All right, so seated for this public hearing on application 2020-4 is members Galdenzi, DeFrancisco, Mace, and Dulac. Carrie, the first thing is, do you have anything that you need to start off, any housekeeping, notifications, or whatever?
So the mailings did go out. There were a significant amount. So you'll see in the presentation that they are looking to rezone the northernmost portion of their largest parcel that Tilcon owns, which is over 600 acres. So the mailings that went out had to be within 500 feet of that parcel. So there were areas in the southern part of town that are much further south than where these the zone changes proposed. But yes, those did go out. So they've met the requirements. And I have comment letters, but maybe I'll wait on those until after the presentation.
Right. Yep. So let me ask you a question. So I'm just kind of scanning here. Everybody that's on Zoom are part of an application, correct? There's nobody from the public on Zoom?
Correct.
Okay. All right. All right. So everybody else is, so what we'll do is then we'll kick it over to the Tilcon team to start the presentation.
Okay, Jim Preddy, Criscolo Engineering, and also Chris Costello from Tilcon is on here with us. This project or this application is to rezone two small, in relationship to the overall piece, two parcels at the north end of the quarry. And when I say north end, just to give you a frame of reference, the north end of the quarry is approximately 3 miles north of the scale house. So the two properties, one was bought around 1981, is 6.35 acres, and the other one, 1995, 8.26 acres, immediately adjacent to the north end of the quarry. They are landlocked pieces. They don't have any access to any roads. They're bordered on one side, on two sides by the RWA, the south side by Tilcon. There's a little piece that the town owns adjacent to it, and there's a rear part of another landlocked piece that butts up against it. Carrie, are you able to put the map up on the screen?
Yes. Hold on 1 second. Sorry, let me get this up. Can you all see that?
Yep.
Okay, let me zoom out so you see where you are.
So Jim Preddy again, what you can see at the bottom portion of the map where it says I-1 is the north end of the existing major Tilcon piece, the 700 acre piece. And then immediately adjacent to it is the two pieces that are 6.3 and 8.2 acres. Those parcels are zoned R80 currently. What was in question that triggered the majority of the joiners is that what looks like that triangular piece there is actually the north end of the quarry parcel, but the zone line, for some reason, when the that's what she's circling. For some reason, it looks like there may have been an error when the original zoning map was created. It chopped off that piece. And I say that because the I-1 zone was created specifically for the Tilcon property. So I just think that they followed the assessor's map, and at the time, nobody had surveyed up there and probably didn't know exactly where the line was. So to clean this up, we included the major property so that we could clean all this up. These two properties will be annexed onto the large property. There is no plans to mine these two properties. I just want to be clear about that. They have a 5-year mining plan that was approved last year that they have to follow. So they can't mine any farther than what was already approved by the town.
Well, what is prompting this? I don't recall. What is prompting this zone change? Like why all of a sudden are we looking at this?
Because they're combining it with the other property, and to do so, the properties need to be the same zone.
So in the future, in another 5 years, when Tilcon comes back for their next 5-year plan, could in the future these be quarried in the next plan?
At some point in the future, Jim Preddy, Chris Cole Engineering, at some point in the future, that could be in the plan, but they would have to come back and get that approved to quarry here. The only thing they could possibly use it for now would be some stockpile for some, topsoil and overburden, but at this point, they couldn't mine in that area without coming back for a new mining plan approval.
And Alex, that mining plan comes through our planning and zoning.
Correct. We just went through one this past year.
Yeah, so if they, so they wouldn't be able to do anything unless they brought the plan back to us, because it's not on the existing plan as it is now. So if they wanted to do something there in the way of quarrying or mining, they would have to come back, and maybe sooner than the 5 years. But either way, they would have to come back to planning and zoning with their plan.
Okay,
that's
question
correct.
from
Hey, so Jim, I totally understand trying to combine with this. I'm saying, like, what's prompting even just looking at this? I'm just curious. I can't remember.
They do need more space for, as what I call the overburden, the soil, the topsoil,
Okay.
the other soil that's above the rock.
Gotcha.
And to move it from that end of the quarry all the way down, can you imagine? I mean, they have to move
I understand.
miles.
Yep. Thank you.
Quick question from Tricia. What are we rezoning, this random triangle? And then,
The triangle and the two pieces immediately adjacent,
okay, so the triangle and then the kind of more clean looking
two rectangles. Yeah.
Those are R80 and we're going to, okay.
So Jim or Carrie, so you have the triangle piece, the one above it, and the one in the red. What's the piece to the left of the triangle there?
This is owned by the town.
Okay, and then, oops, wait, can you go back out again? Because there's one more sliver that I can't tell what it is. So, and I don't know what it is, but see that little triangle of yellow?
Yeah.
Where the white boundary is?
This, if I click on, so this is
No,
what,
not there. No,
No, way up above. Yeah.
Yeah, Carrie, go to the town property, and then see a little triangle above it. Is that town property as well? No,
So
up.
really, there you go. Really tiny sliver. There you go.
What's that? Is that town property or?
This is Jim Preddy again. The colors that you're seeing are the actual zone lines. So that's why I say I think there was some error. Some of the zone lines cut oddly across the properties.
Okay.
Now, are these properties, I'm assuming they're way up the hill, right?
Oh yeah.
Or mountain? I don't know if it's a hill or mountain.
Trish, if you look what Carrie just put on the screen now,
Yeah.
and I can't quite see what that is, but it's probably 0.2 is an inch, 0.2 miles an inch. So it looks like it's over a quarter mile from, that road or that row of housing and stuff. So it looks like it's well over a quarter mile.
Well, that in terms of elevation, like we're going up the mountain.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So this is, 1,500 feet from the nearest street, but within a residential zone.
Right. I mean, it looks straightforward. So, Carrie, so what is the recommendation that we carry this to keep everything open to the
I
next
don't think we
meeting?
need to now, right?
Well, so
So
there's,
Carrie, yeah, you said there's a lot of public
Oh, yeah,
comments.
no, I just want to get a
Yeah,
handle.
no,
Yeah.
no, I understand. I'm just trying to understand. Yeah, there's a lot of public comments, Carrie.
yes, there's public comments, and then I'm monitoring Facebook right now, and there's comments that are being posted or questions that are being posted, but we need to wait until you tell me, and I will
Okay.
ask
Okay.
those questions.
So, Carrie, do we have any referrals that you'd like to review at this time?
Yeah, so I do have a referral. I'm just going to share this on my screen as well. Oh, I'm sorry. You know, these are public comments, and then I have a comment from RWA, but that's for the text amendment. So I don't have referrals for this application. I don't have comments.
Carrie, Jim Preddy, does it make sense for you to gather the comments and then forward them to us so we can address them at the next meeting?
Yeah, I'm just going to say that.
Yeah.
If we don't have
Yeah.
comments, we need the comments for sure.
Yep.
And
Yes,
I'd
that's
like to be able to respond.
Right.
right.
So what I was going to recommend, Carrie, is that tonight we'll open up for public comment. We'll put in the notes of who's sending comments, and then we'll let we can next week have Jim reply or Tilcon reply to him. Does that make sense? Instead of reading each one, because we'll
Yeah, I think I should at least paraphrase some of the concerns, just so it's on the record of
that'd be fine.
what the
Okay.
concerns are. So how do you want me to proceed right now?
Well, you have no referrals, right?
Right.
Okay, so does anybody from the commission have any other comments?
No. Do we need to make a motion to open up the public hearing?
No, we already did.
We opened the public.
Oh, we did that? Sorry.
Yeah. So now,
I have a quick question on.
Journalist here, that sounds all right, Chuck.
Okay.
Whoa.
Okay, and I saw a thumbs up from Marcy. Okay, so then we'll proceed that way if the person is
What
there.
is that?
So it probably will be.
I don't, what is that?
What is that?
Put their computer on mute? Okay.
Okay, Barry,
Nope.
Chuck here. Gary, can you read the notice or someone read the notice of the public hearing?
Who is that?
It sounds like me.
That was Jim. All right. Okay.
So what I think now would be time, Carrie, I would think now would be time to open the for public comments. And then, as you said, you can read the person's name, their address, and paraphrase, knowing that the commission will be getting the full comments in their package for the next meeting, and also will be forwarded to Tilcon so they can respond to them as well.
Okay.
Carrie, I'm going to sign out because it sounds like we're continuing anyhow. Can you just forward me the comments after?
Yes.
So we can respond next time?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Thanks. Okay. Sorry. Okay, so this is from Meg Grasteen. There's opposition and again requesting a 6-month postponement for this change. I received this comment via email. I just want to note that. Based on the information we currently have, we cannot make an accurate assessment of the long-term impact this change may have on our property and the community. Normally, we'd visit Town Hall to learn more about the proposal and Tilcon's plans, but COVID-19 pandemic and the closure of schools has made this incredibly difficult for us to do. We are worried that long-term Tilcon blast and excavate on the parcels, even if their short-term plans are for other activities. Once the parcels are redistricted to I-1, it's our understanding that all these activities will be allowed. We are worried about the impact this may have on the local water table, as most residents in the area are on wells. We are worried that this may have a significant impact on the local environment, disturbing wildlife and game. We are worried the crack in our foundation we discovered after moving in will get a lot larger, and frustrated that this change is being proposed during a pandemic when it is significantly harder for us to get answers to these questions, as we barely have enough time to cook dinner, let alone research zoning requirements. Consequently, we cannot currently support the zoning change. We'd like to better understand the long-term impact of this change, as well as the potential benefits of it. So we are requesting that the change be tabled for 6 months, so all local residents that will be impacted have the time and bandwidth to give the attention it deserves. Thank you for your time and consideration. Sebastian Rossi and Meg Grosstein. And they live on 7 Sterbrook Way, so that's nearby. To North Branford Planning and Zoning Committee, committee members, I am greatly concerned about the application for a zone change by Tilcon. I have an industrial zone to the north in forested land. To have an industrial zone in the north in forested land. My biggest concern comes from the blasting that Tilcon does every week. It feels like an earthquake at my house each time they blast. We are located on a rock ridge that travels underground, so some of us are affected more than others. I have asked Tilcon on a number of occasions to set up a measure reading at my house because the blasts are causing structural damage, ceiling cracking, walls cracking, and it has caused other damage with items falling off of the shelves. To my knowledge, Tilcon has not come to my property to set up a reading even after telling me they would. I have complained to them on a number of occasions. I invite anyone on this committee to my house when Tilcon blasts to feel the earthquake rumble that happens. As the land travels northward toward Northford, housing becomes more dense and more people are affected by Tilcon's activities. I am concerned that the zoning change to industrial is a precursor to extending their quarry and blast zones. Although their application asks for stockpiling, there is nothing to prevent extending the quarry and blasting after that zone change. My question to this committee is this: why can't the land continue to be R80 or R40 and a special use permit given to allow the stockpiling of material? That way the residents at least have some protection against the quarry being extended and the blasting ruining our homes. A public meeting should be held if the time comes for when Tilcon wants to extend the quarry. It affects enough people and is a large enough project to warrant a public hearing for input from the neighbors and public. By keeping the zoning as is with a special use permit instead of a zone change, at least we will have the heads up about Tilcon's intended use in the future and can hold a public hearing. Changing the zone now to industrial takes that right away from us, the citizens of this town and land abutters. It allows Tilcon to do any business within the industrial zone with a simple application and without a public hearing. In fact, with a zone change, they have to update their 5-year plan to include the quarry. So what prevents the quarry from being extended and blasting zones to be extended to the north? All of this without a public hearing on extending the quarry. That is just not fair to all of us who have to deal with the repercussions of the blasting on a weekly basis. The invitation stands for anyone to come to my house when Tilcon blasts. You'll see for yourself what our houses go through. If the quarry were to be extended, it would get worse. Who will pay for all the damage to our houses? I implore you to turn down the zoning change and instead give a special permit use for stockpiling of material, the rural zone. Thank you, Ashley Joyner. North Branford Planning and Zoning Committee, I'd like to express my concern for Tilcon's application to rezone the land referred to as Forest Road, Totucket Mountain, Forest Road Rear, and One Forest Road Rear from residential to industrial. My fear is that the zone change would enable Tilcon to perform the activity that could have an adverse impact on the quality of life, property values of the neighboring community. As I understand it, these plots of land directly border existing residents' homes. I'm guessing that the people living there did not purchase and or build with the expectation that their property would border an industrial zone. If they had known this could be a possibility, perhaps they would have made a different decision. Either way, they would have had a choice based on that information. Approving a zone change after the fact takes away that choice. Have we considered the following? What does a zone change?
Oh,
Then Carrie froze.
Yep.
yeah, she did.
Did I lose
She's
you?
back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're back.
Technology. Hold, please. Sorry.
Harry, we said we're going to get a packet of all these comments in the mail.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll just ask these questions. What does a zone change such as this do to the neighboring property values? What is the intended use for this property? What does it mean in terms of the type of activity that can occur outside someone's back door that was not possible before? What potential environmental impacts are there that could negatively affect our neighbors' lives? Does the current blasting get closer, louder, stronger? This person does not directly border it, but they have concerns and they experience the blasting and it feels like an earthquake. They've been there for 21 years and they have concerns. They're recognizing the economic need for business in Tilcon, but they just have concerns for the betterment of the community. And they're strongly requesting that this application be denied. Donna Andrzejewski. Sorry if I'm butchering your name. Okay, so that's, let me just make sure. Read that one. So those are the comments that were emailed. And then I'm just going to, sorry, just bear with me. I'm going to kind of ask some of the questions that are on Facebook Live. And so those are, can a new public hearing be held to include expansion of the quarry in the Tilcon application? It's not included for this one, but a zone change would allow for the expansion without a public hearing. That was Ashley Joyner. She also had stated that in her concerns. Gina Ravezzi said, I do have a question regarding the Tilcon zoning change. The correct time and link was not listed and changed within 3 hours of a Zoom. This could create an issue down the road as it is a public hearing and people receive no notice of this change. I just want to address that. So that was definitely our error on the town side because of using this Facebook Live as our platform. So I would recommend that we continue this just to provide people with an ample opportunity to participate. And then, as I said before, I would recommend that we just include people in the Zoom invite. Let's see. There was the question about why the parcels have to be the same zone. Gina Ravezzi wondered if there was a wetland issue. There are, I believe, wetlands in that area, but that's a separate matter from rezoning. There's a comment of no zoning from Bob Amendola, no zoning change because they will mine it eventually. Becky Afarismo, how will it affect property values adjacent to the zones? Ashley Joyner again asked about acquiring a special permit as opposed to a zone change. Vin Rapuano said, I have the same questions as Gina Ravezzi. Ashley Joyner wondered if we don't reply live, it's not an actual public hearing. So again, I think that just supports, I mean, the town attorney knows how we're conducting these meetings, just as a side comment, but I think makes sense to have the public participating via Zoom. Bob Amendola, keep residential as I believe Tilcon is tax exempt, correct? Question mark. Lori Ann Biermunder Voigt here watching and listening. They're actually supported keeping the public hearing open. Penny Reginon, how is Tilcon tax exempt? Becky Asfurismo, I really do not see any road, so you can just explain where this is in respect to Forest Road, Route 80. Thank you. Will this zoning affect more noise, blasting, or anything else that we should know about? So again, I think the best way to explain this location of the proposed zone change is to the east of Route 22 and in the general area of Grant and Miller Roads. So it's up near Chat and Chew and Nature Works in that general area, but to the east, kind of on top of Totucket Mountain. There's support for from Lori Ann Biermunder Voigt to delay this for 6 months. Support for the other comment letters. Let me just say. Lori had said, will their activities, if it goes to extra blasting, increase the water runoff that goes down to Cedar Pond? The water runs down alongside property I own.
Are these are comments that are coming from Facebook Live, correct?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. So I think maybe some people joined a little bit later on Facebook Live, but this zone change will not allow blasting to occur. The applicant was on earlier, and I'm just going to paraphrase, and at the next meeting we can have him review this. But this is going to be used for storage for the time being. Carrie, am I correct on that?
Yes.
Okay. So it's not going to incur any new blasting or that would create any other additional issues. It's going to be mainly for storage. But the applicant, if you join late, the applicant will be joining us again at the next meeting, which I'm not sure the exact date. What was it, June 4th, Carrie?
Yes.
So it'll be June 4th. And he will review all the comments that are posted, that were provided to Carrie and on Facebook Live. And he will, Tilcon will address them. So I just wanted to make sure anybody who joined late on Facebook Live just gets a better idea that they're not asking to do any additional blasting on that parcel. It's going to be mostly used for, I believe, storage. Sorry.
Is it allowed or any value? Because Chris is here. Can he speak? I mean, he's from Tilcon, right?
Well,
no. Okay. Just asking.
I mean, we should just let him take all the comments and then reply.
Yep.
All at once.
Understood. Yeah. I just didn't know you were saying the intended use and he's here. I just thought.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. So I'm sorry, Bill. Maybe that's a good idea, Chris, if you want to just review that really quick. Just
the intended use, not answering any questions.
Do you mind if I just read one more?
Sure.
Yep. Sure.
So there is one from Penny Brigione. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your last name, Penny. So her comments are, what are the projected results to property insurance and property values should the zone change be approved? If Tilcon extends their work to these two parcels, how will the property foundations hold up with the additional blast vibrations? Have the engineers tested the vibrations at all points to see what the additional mining would do? With additional water pooling and flowing over the mountain, where will this collect? Have the engineers figured out how this will flow, what direction, also what are the current and proposed water overflow, carcinogens, and other toxic substances. We are all living with well water systems. Therefore, our families and our pets are consuming all of this stuff in the water. Can tests and results be shared with the community? Thanks for this Q&A opportunity. If you can't answer these items, please tell me how to submit them so they are answered at the town meeting, from Penny Region. And then she'd also mentioned about the property values, if the zone change would impact property values.
Okay. So Chris, do you want to at this time give just a quick overview?
Yeah, Chris Costello, I'm representing Tilcon. That is correct. Our intentions for that property is just to stockpile overburden. We save the overburden for end of quarry life. So there'll be no blasting or any other additional water issues up there.
And what would you be doing on that property? You said
overburden. That's the till that's on top of the rock. We stockpile it.
The rock there?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, Carrie, seeing no other questions or any comments from the public. So would somebody like to make a motion to continue this application to the June 4th meeting?
Make a motion to continue this meeting till the June 4th meeting.
Is there a second?
Trisha May seconds.
Okay. Any discussion?
No.
Trish, how do you vote on that?
Trisha Mays votes yes.
Alex?
Vote yes.
Bill?
I vote yes.
And I vote, it's Harry Dulac, I vote yes as well. All right, well, thank you for those who are going to be dropping, and we will we'll continue to the June 4th meeting. Thanks, Chris, for joining. All right, so then the next thing is, the next public hearing is application 2020-3. In attendance for that public hearings are regular members Mace, DeFrancisco, Galdenzi, and Dulac. So, Carrie, do we need house cleaning things for this? I don't think we had to send anything out to the public. I mean, any notifications, correct?
Right. So I do have a comment letter from the Regional Water Authority, and I would recommend that I need to get a comment from the Council of Governments.
Okay.
With the whole COVID situation, that's not exempt. So I do just need to, I don't know when they're meeting, but I need to get some feedback regarding this proposed text amendment.
Okay.
And I have a comment letter, like I said, from RWA, but I don't know if you want me to read it now or maybe wait.
Yeah, you can wait on that.
Can I clarify? What did you said Council of Governments you need a response by? You said something, did you say non-exempt?
Right. So with COVID and there's been all these executive.
I know. I understand.
Some notification has been exempt, or the process in which you do it has been changed, but that is not one of them.
Gotcha. I'm sorry. Yep. Understood.
No.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So at this time, Ed, I'm going to turn it over to you to go through your proposal here.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're looking to propose a text amendment to add one additional unit allowed in a business zone for mixed-use buildings. Also being allowed to have the option to use a septic system rather than having a connection to city sewer, and also allowing from adding an additional bedroom to the regulations instead of just allowing one bedroom in a mixed use type of building, just to, give better options for people in town.
Ed, could you just say your full name, please?
Sure. It's Edward Lawton.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I believe you all have the existing original text in the email that was sent to you. And then in bold is the proposed amendment. Do you want me to read the comment letter from the RWA?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. The Regional Water Authority has reviewed the above referenced zone text amendment. The text amendment would increase the allowable residential units per building in the business zones from 5 to 6 units and increase each unit from 1 bedroom to 2 bedrooms. It would also allow this for sites within on-site septic systems, if approved by East Shore Health District or other regulating agencies. Currently, residential units are only allowed within the business district if connected to the municipal sanitary sewer. Our comments relate to the portions of the B1, B2, and B3 zones that are within the Lake Saltonstall public water supply watershed. The RWA's concern regarding this amendment centers on the allowance of residential units to be served by septic systems. The regulations would allow each building in the business zones to add 12-bedroom units. Depending on the calculated volume of wastewater, septic systems are regulated by the local health department or the Connecticut Department of Public Health. The local jurisdiction does not evaluate the ability of the site to meet nitrogen dilution or bacteria renovation at the property line. A local health department review may not be adequate to assure the potential of 3 additional septic systems on a property will not impact off-site water resources. In addition, the text amendment is unclear if the applicant can appeal a denial by the local health department. The East Shore Health District's mission in protecting the environment is greatly appreciated, and we look forward to their input on this matter. Thank you for the opportunity, from Ron Walters. So I do not have comments from East Shore. So again, another reason to continue this conversation.
Gary, who's that from?
From Ron Walters. He's the
Regional
Senior
Water.
Environmental Analyst at Regional Water Authority.
Oh, okay. All right. So
I think, I mean, just to paraphrase and summarize, from what I heard, because it's a text amendment, it's for the business district. When they have residential, they're concerned about nitrogen infiltration and things like that into the public water supply that eventually goes to Lake Saltonstall.
That's what I read out of it. Yep.
Yes.
So, I think at this point, Ed's he's kind of showed what he wants to do. So I think we need to really get all the referrals back so we can have a larger discussion. Correct, Carrie?
Yes, I have a public comment, just one that through Facebook Live, whenever you want to open up the public hearing, but yes, or take comments from the public. East Shore District Health, we definitely need their input.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. And as we already mentioned, obviously you're applying for a text amendment. So I know you're interested in one particular parcel, but this is obviously affects potentially multiple. So we obviously just need to be considerate of that. That's all.
Yep. And in the comment that was made by the Regional Water Authority, that's, we'll look at this application, but that was why, we had the original tax set up for municipal sewers and also limiting the number of bedrooms. So that was kind of like the basis behind the original text. But we'll get those comments from East Shore and others as well. So at this time, I'd like to open up for any public comments. And Carrie, you said you had one?
So from Lori Ann Biermunder Voigt, I recommend approval of the text amendment. We need more available housing. And
anybody else?
Hold on, let's see. From Laura Dotson, the less going to public water, the better. Opposed.
Okay. All right, so since we have some open issues, I mean, does anybody from the commission have any questions or anything, any comments?
Nope.
I do not.
Okay.
I don't, just, eager to get the feedback about the nitrogen and the water and follow that process thoroughly.
Carrie, by chance, for the next meeting, is there a way to have a map of all the parcels in town that this could impact because of the septic aspect? That might be useful for the commission to look at.
So are you wondering about just a map of properties that are zoned business or those that have sewer option? So,
well, I guess we might have sewer options because now if the sex amendment went through, then will they have the option of if they wanted, if something happened with the sewer to go on septic?
right. So this text amendment would allow them to actually opt to not do sewer, but only do septic with East Shore's approval.
Interesting.
Permit. So the text amendment reads, the commission may at its discretion permit on-site well water supply and on-site septic system. Currently it reads, the commission may at its discretion permit on-site well and water supply only when approved by the East Shore. Sorry, it talks about all dwelling units must be served by public sewers and public water. So, and then it says the commission may at its discretion permit on-site well and water supply only when approved by East Shore District Health. So it doesn't address the on-site septic. That makes sense?
Yeah.
All right, since we have anybody else?
Sorry, so just to go back to Alex's question, so I can provide you a map, like this, of the zoning in town with, that's the business zone, really.
Yeah, B1, B2, B3, and the MVP.
It would be, Alex asked the question, so answer his question or give what he wants, but it'd be interested to get the B, and to Alex's point maybe is obviously the ones on sewer, you don't have to mark, but then the ones potentially that are on septic, maybe just doesn't have to be extravagant, just maybe X that. So we can kind of understand which ones are on septic and which ones are on sewer.
Well, so I guess the other thing to point out is that this text amendment would open up the opportunity for more residential, obviously, in the business zone, because a lot of town does not have sewers. So maybe that's what it is. It's to really highlight where sewers are not available. So one area that comes to mind is the east side, the eastern portion of Route 80 heading towards Guilford. Right. There are business zones over there, but there's no sewer available. Yeah.
So that you would it doesn't just get your rudimentary, just hash it, so it's clear. Okay, that potentially these are the ones that could be opened up. And to Alex, anyway, that would be helpful for me.
Yeah. No, I agree, Bill.
Yep.
And is there any way in this process of seeing the impact on the public water supply for this one spot, would they, whoever they are, agencies or the people with that expertise, would they be able to give any input on if, that area along Route 80, would they be able to give input, or is it appropriate for them to give input on if we were to go septic over there, it would, significantly impact the environment over there, or it would not? But again, if we make a change, we're changing it for everybody.
Carrie, does East Shore do that, or do they just will make a assessment on a proposal that came in front of them?
I think that's the RW. I don't want to put words in RWA's mouth, but I think they're saying, East Shore looks at, do you have enough spacing and do you have enough percolation and everything, but they don't look at like the nitrification, the nitrogen migration from that into any water, nearby water bodies, I think.
Right. I can double check with East Shore about that.
That's a combination of East Shore and then I think the state's DPH and Regional Water Authority.
Especially because, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think the RWA's comment was.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, have the people with expertise do it.
Yep. Anything else? Otherwise, can somebody make a motion to continue to the June 4th regular meeting?
Tricia Mace makes a motion to continue this public hearing for the June 4th regular meeting.
Is there a second?
I'll second. This is Alex.
Any discussion? Seeing none. Trish, how do you vote?
Tricia Mace votes yes.
Alex?
Alex votes yes.
Bill?
Bill votes yes.
And Harry votes yes. So we'll continue that to the June 4th. So both public hearings will be continued over to the next meeting. And Carrie, you're going to work on having everybody set up so they can come on Zoom, correct?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, so moving down to the next order of business is the town's town planners report. So I'll give that back to you, Carrie.
Okay, so last week we started the process of the temporary outdoor seating. We're going to kind of combine A and B. And we did come up with a form. I worked with East Shore Health and the zoning enforcement officer, building official, fire marshal. We have a form that's available for restaurants for temporary outdoor seating. We're trying to streamline it as much as possible. We still do, quite honestly, ask for quite a bit of information because of it's just required from either a zoning standpoint or from a health and safety, fire marshal, and then of course from East Shore Health. So we need everything from like a site plan showing as much to scale or dimensionally appropriate as possible, where people would like to have seating, and where that is in relationship to the property lines. So if they're proposing seating in a parking lot, how many spaces are they proposing to take up? How will the patrons be protected? All of those things. And then East Shore has a lot of requests. Again, separating the tables appropriately, having hand sanitizer at an entranceway, marking the direction of an entrance versus an exit, pedestrian flows, all of those things. So we've gotten through one applicant. We have probably 3 or 4 or 5 in the wings, kind of coming through. So hopefully it will get easier as we go through it. But at the last meeting, the commission wanted to start looking at doing maybe a text amendment. And I didn't know kind of what your thoughts were. It's still kind of early in this, but we currently do not have anything in our regulations under just restaurants for outdoor seating. Wineries and breweries are a different matter, so I kind of don't want to talk about that at this point, but instead just talk about restaurants and thinking about outdoor seating. If you did still want to entertain some kind of a text amendment and what that might look like. I think starting off broad in general would be best. And then if we want to make it more specific, we can go from there.
So Carrie, I have a couple broad notes that I put together. So as you mentioned, so being at like the wineries and breweries, we should be, keep them separate. So this would be under, I would assume B and I zones. Okay. Cause I think, I'm not sure if there's any, let's call those, for lack of better terminology, strip malls and industrial zones, but let's assume that there's restaurants in industrial zone, there's restaurants in the business zones. So it'd be for B&I. So
Are there a few in residential too, Harry?
Well, I'm going to get to residential. Good point, Alex. Great question. I'm going to get to residential after because, yeah. So then we'll do the IB, B&I first. And so then I looked at kind of like what Hidden Kitchen presented. So as you recall, they were calling for approximately 570 square feet. So if you really think about it, it's really not that big. And actually, I saw a picture of it today, and on the 570 square feet, they only have 4 tables, basically in the corner. Maybe they had a 5th one in the middle, but I couldn't really tell as I was going by. But let's say about 4 or 5. So that's only 570 square feet. So one thing I was thinking about is that seems kind of small, but what if we went to up, and I'm going to throw a number out there. Let's start off at a maximum at 1,000 square feet. So that's really 30 by 30. So, I mean, so that's where I was thinking maybe about 1,000 square feet. That 1,000 square feet would be based for one business. And let's say, if it was a strip mall and there's 2 businesses, each one can have up to 1,000 square feet. But there's other caveats that go along with that. So,
Harry, can I interrupt real quick? So
sure.
This is a concept for the permanent patios that would continue.
Correct.
After the COVID pandemic.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
So I was thinking that maybe we have it up to 1,000 square feet. Now that 1,000 square feet, we can just keep that as is, or do it a percentage of the existing business in there, but I'm not really sure if that's the way to go. So I'm just going to leave it 1,000 square feet per establishment. Let me see here. Yeah, but one thing would be obviously the owner, if it's a tenant, the owner would have to sign off on any plan that came in front of us. He would have to approve it. So if, for instance, Hidden Kitchen, they put their temp or their permanent outside into the and they take away parking spaces. One thing that wouldn't be allowed is that you would have to add in the 1,000 square feet as patron space, and also make sure that you have parking spaces for not only for all the based on all the square footage inside the establishment, but also outside. So if you have 1,000 square feet, that's patron space that you have to count for parking spaces. So I just need to make sure that that's included in there.
Now, Harry, I don't know if this exists already somewhere in the town or other towns. Will they be able to do it as seasonal and then shut off part of the inside to adjust and account for that? Or is that something completely new?
Well, I mean, if they're gonna, if you have indoor and outdoor at the same time, you got to account for all the square footage and the parking required. Whether it's seasonal or not, it wouldn't make a difference because you would have indoor and outdoor at some time during the year at the same. So you would have to account for those parking spaces.
So a landlord would have to look holistically at, if it's a strip mall with 4 businesses, it's holistically.
Right.
So if one is trying to take outdoor seating, he'd have to consider that for the entire strip plaza.
Well, yeah.
Right? Obviously, yeah.
Okay. So let's see. So they would have to do the existing, and then obviously the protective barrier. So then I want to get into the residential. So there's 2 other things to make it real simple for residential, and I'm going to call it single tenant establishments or parcels. So and I'm going to use Duties, Chat and Chew, and I'm sure there's more places that are either residential or they're one building with only one tenant. It's not like you can have multiple tenants. It's just, whatever it might be. I say for residential and for single tenant parcels that we do just a straight special use permit, because there could be different things. You might be able, if you're on a single tenant, you might be able to go a little bit bigger, or residential, you might be able to do things a little bit differently. So we can leave that a little more open-ended instead of trying to put a regulation around it. Because in a strip mall, you have multiple tenants, you have parking for the whole group. But when you have a residence or a single tenant establishment or parcel, you might be able to go a little bit bigger. You might be able to do things a little bit differently than you would if you're in a strip zone, so a strip mall. So that's why I think the residential and the single tenant parcels should be just fall under special use permits, and then we can get a site plan or a site plan come in, and we can evaluate it from there. But I think it would be too difficult. I personally think it would be too difficult to write a regulation for B zones, I zones, then residential and single, and then the single tenant ones. I think it'd be really hard to group it all together. So those are just my thoughts right now.
Can I ask a question? I'm going to go way back. This is just a discussion we're having, right?
Well, yeah.
Right?
Discussion that could lead to a text amendment application.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Okay.
So just one comment, sorry, real quick. So on our use table, restaurants are permitted in a business zone and an industrial zone, but only through a special use permit. They're not permitted in a residential zone. So I would say that we could really only focus on having a text amendment for a business zone and industrial zone at this time, because if I own a restaurant in a residential zone and I want to expand the use by having outdoor seating, you're expanding a nonconformity, which is not allowed.
Okay, well, that makes perfect sense. So that takes that right off the. Okay. All right.
Carrie. So you have you can grant 90-day, and there's no flexibility to do anything beyond that.
No.
Not at this time. So some towns are.
I'm talking about temporary, just to be clear with everyone. The temporary approval that Carrie has authority to grant.
So some towns are saying that the outdoor seating is permitted until the governor's emergency order is over, which at this point, I believe the date that I've heard is maybe September, but that could change.
Right.
It could be.
So I think the temporary.
It could be extended, though.
Could be extended, right? I think that there's some flexibility with that. What we saw, I think, with the Hidden Kitchen, which makes a lot of sense and will happen with other restaurant owners as well, is they are concerned about investing a significant amount of money in making these changes when it's only good for 90 days.
I agree.
And then I think they just have concerns too, that they don't want the commission to come in and after 90 days say, nope, you're done. You don't have a permit anymore. You have to pack up, which unless they're violating some issue, I don't foresee that happening. I think if they're complying with the conditions of maintaining the patron area, protecting it. So, this text amendment isn't something that we would have to act on immediately. Again, I think it does help some restaurant owners if they did want to invest in something for the summer and into the fall, something more permanent. But we may want to spend more time and think about it and see how it goes too. Like, I know that the Hidden Kitchen is set up, and they have these temporary blocks, and it probably doesn't look as great as they want it to, but I think it looks fine. Given the circumstances, they did a great job.
So, Carrie, here's what I was thinking. So to move on this is if we can put something together and put it out there as a public hearing, since it's under the town, we can take our time with it.
Sure.
We can get to, so at least we can put something together, whatever it might be, get it out to the public so we can start getting comments on it, whether it's from other restaurant owners, whether it's from, and anybody from the community, so then it can help us build a regulation, or build, or see if we want to add a regulation, and then build on it. But if we wait and those 90 days start coming up and then we're starting the process, we know how it goes. It's going to be slow and we're going to grind it out for a while. So that's why I think that we should put something together, at least come together on the next meeting and say, okay, here's what we're going to put out to the public. Here's our text amendment. And then we can go from there and get comments on it and then build on it as we go. But I really think we should start to move on it, because like they said at Hidden Kitchen and there's other restaurants, they don't want to. It might not be worth the investment without if they were just going to go temporary versus permanent. And they sounds like they do want to. Some may want to go permanent. So that's why I think we should at least put something together so we can get out. Put something out there so we can discuss it at the next meeting after the June 4th meeting.
So my main concern is equity. And at the last meeting, Harry, you mentioned something that, so say if we say up to, 1,000 square feet, but again, if everybody in that strip mall wants 1,000 square feet, but now you run out of room, who's determining the equity? Is that the landlord's now determining the equity, or we're building something in our reg to make it more equitable?
No, we could. I don't even know how we would do that. It would be up to the landlord. So okay. any site plan that came in front of us would have to be, we would have to come with the landlord's signature. And if there was any changes on it, he would have to approve any changes on it. Like say we said, you're gonna 1,000 feet doesn't work. You're gonna have to readjust the size or whatever it might be. He has to sign off on it to get the application in front of us and sign off the final document.
Now, would we get into any of, we meaning the commission, get into any details about, okay, here's your space, whatever the landlord said you can do, but now you're spilling over the storefront of somebody else. Would we put any details in our regs about that, or that again, we would kind of somehow put the burden on the landlord?
It would be my recommendation to have that all fall on the landlord.
Okay.
Yep.
Kara, were you able to gather, I know it's only been a week, to gather how the outdoor seating regs look for towns around us?
No, unfortunately.
That's okay. It was a quick turnaround. That's fine.
And I was trying, what I've seen is I looked at Guilford and I didn't see anything. I do need to reach out to the zoning enforcement officer there because she'll be much more obviously familiar with their regulations, but they seem to have different parking requirements depending on the location, which zone you're located in, but that's relating to parking, which we may want to look at as part of this as well. Mm-hmm. To have a little bit more flexibility if restaurants do want to start having seating in their parking lot, as opposed to, if they don't have the opportunity to do it on another area. Like mm-hmm. East Shore doesn't like having seating, is my understanding, on grass. If you're serving food, they'd rather have it on a paved surface. So maybe we do need to look at our parking in relationship to that.
That's kind of why I was asking your flexibility to extend these. It seems like, I get what we're trying to do, and we want to be totally agile and flexible, but like when we start talking about considering that, a text amendment where we start considering the outside seating as part of the total square footage, like the Hidden Kitchen situation, if that restaurant next to Hidden Kitchen and Hidden Kitchen do 1,000, they probably don't have enough parking. So then we're telling, where if you have flexibility just to kind of make this happen till September or something, and I'm just wondering if that's a better way to go.
We do have flexibility. I mean, they can do it temporarily. What we're saying.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. If there's flexibility, as Carrie mentioned, to go to the Lamont's executive order, so it goes until this crisis is over, that might be more flexibility the to the businesses than trying to do a text amendment if we're going to start.
Well, the only
thing is, Bill, is that like Hidden Kitchen said, and other places will say that they don't want to really invest. They want to invest in it, but they want to invest, they want to do it nice, do it right and do it nice.
I understand, but you said we're going to include that. We'd have to consider including that as part of their square footage for parking, for example, because we probably want to look at that. There's not much parking there to begin with, so you start including the Chinese food restaurant and them, that's 2,000 in addition. You probably don't have enough parking.
Yeah, but Bill, what I'm saying is that you're talking about the details. We can discuss the details down the road. All I'm saying, let's put something out there and then we could change it. We don't, 1,000 square feet can be, 700 square feet.
All I'm saying is I wonder, just for the business community, is just allowing some extension of what Cary can offer them to be more flexible. Maybe that works for them. I understand the investment piece.
It doesn't work for them.
Well, but that's one applicant. And the Jersey barriers weren't. She even said it. That's not how they. That's not how they are. But I mean, these are unusual circumstances too.
So what do you recommend? I'm recommending.
I'm just bringing up a different point of view.
I am, but what are you recommending though? We don't do anything?
No, I'm just bringing that up. That I'm trying to understand the flexibility that Cary has to offer. I know it's just 90-day, but if there's any more flexibility to extend it beyond that.
Well, if the governor changes his mind, then we may, but if not, it's 90 days. So we wouldn't know until, getting close to the 90 days.
Yeah. So I guess my point is, I'm just wondering. I don't know, so I'm not saying I know anything. I'm just wondering if there's more value to just keeping it somewhat flexible right now than to try to regulate it. Because when we start regulating it, then we may be more restrictive than we are without it being regulated. That's all I'm saying. I'm not concluding anything right now. I'm just throwing that out there.
We're not regulating anything, Bill. So if somebody wants to do it temporarily, they can file the governor and the states.
We are regulating. We're talking about doing a text amendment.
No,
that's a regulation.
There's two different things here. As long as outdoor seating is permitted, as far as the guidelines come from the state, any business can do outdoor seating, and as Cary mentioned, temporarily, and that temporarily can be 3 months or 90 days, 120 days. Who knows what it's going to be?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
We're talking about permanent. There's a difference.
Right. I understand.
Temporary, we do not have to do anything. They can stay under temporary as long as they want, or as long as the state allows it. We're talking about just going permanent. So there's two different scenarios there.
I understand.
There's nothing.
No, I'm saying.
So there's nothing for. If somebody wants to go temporary, they can go. They can make it. I don't say as big as they want, but they can do a lot of different things without a lot of oversight because that's what the state allowed. Now, Cary has an opportunity to look at it. Police, fire, East Shore, and different things like that. What we're saying is, if somebody wants to go permanent, let's at least start the process so then we can help a business owner not have to invest in something doing it temporarily first.
Yeah. I understand. We're saying the same thing. I'm bringing up that let's just make sure that what we can offer without doing something formal, maybe something some of the other business owners would want. That's all. I'm just throwing that perspective out there. That's all I'm doing.
I don't understand. So is it don't do anything? I don't understand. Or do you want to start a regulation? So at least it starts the beginning of one. We don't have to pass it. You know what I mean? But I just don't. What action steps do you want to do?
So Harry, I think it goes back to what you were saying before that you might want to do this as a town. Is it possible for Cary just to take a poll out there of all the restaurants that might want this, and if it's only like one or two, to see if they want to put it out there as a text amendment from what they want to do?
Well, Alex, if they want to do a text amendment, they can do it as well. We just thought it would be better for us to do it because we can write it, and when it's under the town, we can extend it. We don't have to do it within the 45 or 60 days. So we can write it, and then we don't even have to act on it. I mean, we don't even have to do anything with it. All we're saying is, at the last meeting, everybody that's attending tonight says, yes, this is something we want to do. And now today we're saying, well, let's hold up. Let's not do anything. So
let's be clear. Let's be clear. I'm not saying anything.
Well,
I'm throwing it.
Yeah, I just don't know what you're saying. Is should we do nothing, or should we start writing? Start trying to put something together. So that's what I thought we planned on doing, is coming with ideas tonight's meeting to consider building a text.
Let me back up. And so I'm saying when we start, we didn't conclude anything, but when you start saying we're going to include the 1,000 square feet out in a parking lot and add it to when included as part of the square footage to determine parking, you may be choking businesses, what I'm saying. So we should be careful about that. That's all I'm saying. And I just said that, do we have ability to have some flexibility? Now I understand the investment part. So aside from that, I'm just wondering, we should just pause for a second and just think about it. Is there more flexibility in the temporary options if this can be extended for the extent of this crisis? I don't know. That it was just a question. It was just a simple question.
Okay, so when I first started talking about what I brought up here was that these are just ideas that I had. The 1,000 square feet, add in the calculation of parking, were just thoughts to put into start building a regulation.
My whole comment back to you started with that, saying, okay. I know we didn't conclude anything, but I'm saying that's part of a regulation, is that type of thing. So right. All I'm saying, Carrie, I'm not concluding anything. I'm just throwing that different perspective out to let's maybe pause and think. Let's just make sure this is the direction that the businesses want. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
I get what you're saying, because if you go too big on outdoor, in some strip malls, if you go too big on outdoor seating, now there's not enough parking, and now people can't go to the business.
Well, and I think that was the key question that came up when Hidden Kitchen was presenting was, you all seemed okay. No, not seemed. I know you were okay with the 4-table layout for now, but then I think Alex had asked the question from the start, well, 4 tables for now, but once these COVID, restrictions go away, what's your full capacity potential? Does that double it? And then where are we left with parking?
Yeah.
And those comments that Alex made was the reason why I put up that any square footage outdoors has to be added to the indoors to determine parking. So again, these were just thoughts I threw together. So whether we start to maybe consider a amendment or not, I'll leave that to them. I think we should start, at least try and put something together. We don't have to, we can put something together, some high level details in it, put it out to the public. We can work on it. If we want to act on it, we do. If we don't, we don't. That's what I'm saying. I thought it would be helpful for the businesses to move on this, try to start the process sooner, so we can put what we want to see in it, instead of like a individual restaurant coming and trying to build a text amendment like others do when they want to change it, that we're driving this. But I'll defer to whatever the commission wants to do.
So Harry,
I agree. Sorry, Alex. I agree, Harry. I think I guess my point, to put it a different way, I think in parallel we should just look at what the flexibility that Carrie has, and then we can compare them side by side to say what is the best, and what maybe get the pulse of the business community to say what actually does work best for you in these unusual times. That's all I was saying. I don't disagree with you. We want to help the businesses.
Gary, what flexibility do you have?
As far as the text amendment goes, passing something down?
As far as the temporary. I mean, as far
With
as
the governor's order.
The governor's orders he's waiving the parking requirements. That's a huge one.
yeah,
The parking, and there's a couple other waivers on it.
Yeah, I think, and also I think your outdoor seating can be up to 50% of your indoor capacity, if I'm not mistaken.
It has to
So
be.
that, so my point was, can that be, my whole point was, can that be, is there any flexibility you to extend that to, like you said, September to the end of the executive order, or to the, whatever, the end of the crisis, whatever. And my whole point was, is that a better option? That's all that was my whole point.
I still don't understand what it means though, because Carrie can't change she doesn't have any flexibility. It comes from the state. So I'm not.
Right. My only flexibility is whatever the state decides as far as length of time for the approval. And as Harry mentioned, the pressure, if you will, the encouragement was more coming from the restaurant owners saying, we don't want to put a big investment into this.
Correct.
And they're trying to also turn their business model around, is what I took away from it, was that they're not seeing this as a temporary thing. They actually are seeing this as, this is where things are going, and we want to be positioned so that we don't have to do this twice. We only want to do it once. And now we realize that's not possible. We wanted to get them up and running. They may have to just put something in, see how it works, and then kind of rearrange and redo it. But so one thing that the city of Hartford is doing is that they are allowing, and obviously North Branford's very different, but they are allowing for temporary outdoor seating, and they are doing a text amendment to say that when this is over, if their temporary seating is actually working out okay, they could keep it. There's going to be a process to go through that, but that may be something to consider as well. And there's some kind of language relating to COVID.
That's the kind of creativity, something like that. Yeah.
Here's the one issue that I have with this whole thing with the temporary versus permanent. I would hope that restaurants wanted to go permanent, because if that's the case, we can reduce the square footage. Some of these restaurants, the state is allowing 50% of capacity. That might, for very little oversight, they have the right to do 50% of their current capacity. That could be more than the 500 or 600 or 1,000 square feet, depending on what these are. So that's why if we get in front of it, we can put something together and, make it more, make it more safe to the public, whatever it might be. But, if we went with, if somebody went and built a temporary structure or whatever it might be, and then try to come and say, they want to make it permanent and we want to make changes to it, and do they have to break it all down? Would that, added expense?
So the one thing, just to go back to a comment, with the executive order, specifically the more recent one, I think it's 7 capital M, so 7MM, essentially the restaurant does not have to comply with setbacks. They don't have to comply with coverage. They don't have to comply with hours of operation that are set by the town's zoning or any other regulation. The state is making it as easy as possible for restaurants to have outdoor seating. So I get what you're saying as far as, if a restaurant has an occupancy of 500, now they can have 250 outside. If they can do that on their property, again, regardless of setbacks, they don't have to comply with setbacks, as long as they meet the health department and, public health and safety. That is a component. There is like a clause in there that says, that's where we can allow the Jersey barriers or require Jersey barriers. But there's a lot of flexibility, I guess is my point, but that's under the temporary.
Gary, also the temporary, they still would have to comply. Well, temporary, or if we did a permanent one, even if a restaurant got a permanent one, they would still have to comply with the distance for safety and everything else like that. So they'd still be operating as underneath the temporary guidelines for the safety aspects and everything like that. And at least from what I've understood from the governor's order, and what we've been talking about is when everything goes back to normal, then businesses are supposed to go back to what they were beforehand. And I think that's like how Harry was saying before when I commented last week is, well, if they have this permanent area, how's that impacts, well, not just the parking, but I think even last week, like lighting was a concern, right, and noise was a concern. So there's different things that might come about, even like heating come the fall and stuff like that, that the summer temporaries might not have, but also too, like how Bill mentioned, I agree with both you guys, is this thing's ever changing, like every day, every week, and new orders are coming out from the governor. And so from my understanding, Harry is simply just doing what the governor has allowed all the towns to do for the temporaries. And looking at the application that North Branford has, it's pretty easy. It's pretty straightforward. But I think the only thing that I saw, like the 50% capacity, even if someone wants to do the full 50% capacity with the temporary, they still have to go by the safety distancing. So I think that's like using Hen Kitchen, for example, because they went through this last week. They have the 4 tables there. Even if they could fit whatever they wanted there, and the permanent one, they just couldn't.
Well, I think the permanent discussion came from Hidden Kitchen because that's the direction they want to go in, which is then that's what sparked us to have a temporary versus permanent road we're going on.
Yeah, Tris, I mean, the one thing is that if we do something for permanent and businesses has come in, we don't have to worry about what the government, I mean, what the state does under temporary seating. Like Alex, you mentioned, it's ever changing. But if somebody comes in and under permanent, we know exactly what they're doing and how they're going to do it. And they can't vary from that. It's our regulation. We can't get, so our outdoor seating regulation would not be overridden by the state's temporary one because it's 2 different things. The applicant would be applying for permanent where the state is allowing temporary to occur. So
well, no, here I think
it would not be overridden. The permanent. It would not. It would not be overridden.
Well, no, so it won't be overridden, but even with the permanent, so I think, and this is coming from the East Shore meeting that they had for the town of North Branford the other day, and the governor's orders is if you have an existing patio, the regulations are more streamlined, but you still have to comply to them. But I think still the parking exemptions, a few other exemptions are there. I think that's what Carrie was mentioning before.
Our permanent one would not, they would have to follow our regulation. If somebody came in for permanent outdoor seating, the temporary, they would follow the state. Permanent would fall under our regulation. They would not be able to vary from that. So
during the COVID, I don't think so.
No, that is, that's the regulation. If you do not have outdoor seating, you can do it right now. But if we have a regulation and somebody files an application for it, they will, once that is approved, they would have to follow it. They couldn't say, well, first of all, why would they come to us if that's the case? But they couldn't, if we said you can only have 1,000 square feet and they built it 2,000 square feet, that's not allowed. So they would have to stay under a temporary. If they wanted to do it outside of our regulation, they would have to stay a temporary. When they wanted to go permanent, the state says, okay, go back to normal. You would then they would have to file an application and come under our permanent seating. So they can either do it before or they can do it after, but they have to follow it, Alex. They could not, unless it's temporary, then they could do as the state says. If they come under our regulation, if we did something, they would have to follow the regulation they were approved under.
So I agree with everything except for, I think, so structurally everything, I agree with you, Harry. I think the parking, and there's a few other things that the governor in his orders exempt
Right.
from normal town
For the
regulations.
Correct.
Yeah, that are temporary. During the COVID thing. That's what I meant.
Let me
But
just-
obviously, once
again.
this goes wayside, then yes, I agree with you.
So
It's
anything temporary, if somebody wants to say temporary, they follow the state's guidelines.
Mhm.
Okay, the state's guidelines. If we decided to do something for outdoor seating that's for permanent in nature, anybody that's approved underneath that would have to follow that regulation that's approved, not the temporary. So that's where they have to make a decision. They have to make a decision to stay temporary, or they would have to make a decision to go if they want to do permanent. Or they can wait till the crisis is, everything's reopened, and then try to come to us after the fact. And, we would have to go through the whole process, and they'd have to shut it down in the meantime. So it'd be up to them. So that's, the difference between the temporary and the permanent.
Okay, so should we continue this to the June 4th meeting, or do you want to meet next week and continue this, or,
Well, I think we were going to meet quicker if Hidden Kitchen was going for permanent, right?
Right.
But if they're going for temporary, I think we could continue it to June 4th.
Well, if it's temporary, we don't have to do anything, Trish. We just have to do it. I mean, we don't have to do
Well,
anything.
and they're set up. They're, as far as I know, I'm not sure exactly where East Shore is, but I know that they've set up their tables. I don't know if they're serving out there, but they are operational in the sense of doing takeout and that stuff. So that's good. So I think that the June 4th meeting would be fine.
Yeah.
Gary, is there side note? I think you said there's one application that's already approved and going through. Is there anyone that's already operating, or there's just a bunch of people working right now for the temporary?
I don't know about duties. They have outdoor seating that exists. I know that they put an application in as well. Tom Hogarty is back. So
Okay.
I asked if he could come back this week because I needed help. So I passed all of this along to him. So duties is one that comes to mind. There's a lot of conversation about like Dairy Queen, I'm sure there will be comments, but someone that already has an existing takeout window, I don't know if that's considered. I don't know if that's part of your question, but I think that they are up and running, but I don't know of any other restaurants. I've heard that Chat and Chew has some people sitting on picnic tables that are out there, but I don't know.
Yeah, those at Chat and Chew have been out there for as long as Chat and Chew.
Years, yeah.
Yeah, and I will say that I know that the fire marshal is still looking at the existing picnic tables at like Chat and Chew and Supreme Seafood, and we've emailed them applications to fill out just as part of this process, because now we're looking at all of this outdoor seating to make sure that it is protected, that the patrons are protected. That's the biggest concern that's come up.
Okay.
Yep. Okay.
So what's our next step on this? Are we gonna work on this, or are we just gonna kind of hold up on it?
I think we should work on it because, again, I think Hidden Kitchen does want to go in the direction of permanent.
All right.
And as usual, when it's, even one person, they want to come in and do a text amendment.
So, if that's the goal, on June 4th, let's put everything together so we can put something out and have a meeting the following, the second meeting in June. And
June 18th, okay.
Yeah, so let's put together high-level details. They can be changed. It's our regulation. We can change it. It's not like an applicant that where we have to deny and start all over again. It's our application, as long as we don't vary too much from it. Meaning I zone B zone, I and B zones, and maybe some square footage and stuff. But as long as we don't make huge changes, we can just keep it open and work on it and get, have members of the public and restaurants look at it and make comments on it. I think that's just a starting point.
Yeah.
So that's what I'd like to see done. Have it all completed by June 4th so we can start, having people start commenting on it at the end of June, and then we finalize it or not, and then we can go from there. So.
Was this, I know EDC's been quite active and proactive. I wonder if this ever came up in any of their surveys or assessments with the businesses, or nobody just thought about it until now with the pandemic.
That's a good question. I can circle back. I talk with Roger Solway all the time. So I can see if they have any input, and I will definitely ask them for their thoughts once we have a draft going.
Yeah.
And then I'm just kind of looking at comments that are coming up on Facebook Live, and this isn't part of the public hearing, but I did just want to clarify that the temporary permit for outdoor seating at restaurants, that form has been finalized, and we are accepting applications now, and that is available on the town's website. The conversation that's happening now is about the permanent outdoor seating beyond this pandemic and emergency declaration. So nothing's being held up. We're trying to move everyone forward and get businesses open again beyond just the takeout, but to have outdoor seating.
Hey, Alex, is your name misspelled as I'm looking at it on Zoom? I see DEFRAM as in Mary.
It was changed the other day and it reversed back.
Is it supposed to be M or N? It's supposed to be N.
Yeah, no, I changed it the other day. I don't know.
Driving me crazy the whole meeting.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all good.
Okay.
So if you guys don't mind, I'm gonna add a few comments because more than likely, I don't know if I'll be here for the next meeting. But so one of the comments is, Harry, how you mentioned 1,000 square feet per establishment. I know last week you were floating the idea around if you had multiple businesses within the same strip mall, almost having like a courtyard type thing.
Right.
And that might help with square footage and saving parking and stuff like that. But of course, that'd go back to the owner signing off on that. I don't know if you want to incorporate that into this or whatnot. Obviously, lighting, going with the standards of the town for lighting the night sky, like we always do. And then for sound, I know sound's always a big issue for everyone that's on this committee. For industrial and business areas, normally it's not as bad, but still, I know it's always a concern. So definitely that's something to bring up. I think that was all my concerns as of right now.
So Alex, I just want to make sure I got them, what you said. So in case you aren't here, lighting plan, sound, hours of operations, of course. The one thing with the courtyard and combined, and the reason why I came with 1,000 square feet is I thought that somebody said that even the temporary, they're not going to allow a courtyard mentality because one might be serving alcohol, one might not. So then you can't really mix and match and stuff like that. But we can leave that in there.
I think that is a question for East Shore Health. The question of if multiple restaurants can share one courtyard space. I think from a zoning standpoint, use matches with the exception that you just mentioned, Harry, which is a good one of if one's serving alcohol and the other is not. But it's more of a health department component. Can they share?
But if there were two restaurants that weren't serving alcohol, they were just serving food, maybe they could. So we'd have to go to East Shore on that. But okay, so Alex, I got all those.
The other one, I just think of it because we were talking Hidden Kitchen and remembering their site plan. Looking at the parking lots, especially like the strip malls, the way the traffic flows and where the courtyards are set up. I know police and fire look at this for safety anyways.
Yep.
But I know there were some concerns last week in regards to that. So I think that was the only other thing that I had.
Yeah, Ron made that point. If the fire truck can get in, turn around.
Yeah, because we want to make sure the patrons are always safe, regardless if they're inside or outside, and for all the businesses that could exist in that parking lot.
Yeah, and so and one other thing. So, Carrie, you just mentioned Dairy Queen, right? Is Dairy Queen, who owns? So McDonald's, Dairy Queen, and all the stores in there, they own. Do they own everything there? Do they own McDonald's, or does McDonald's?
They own the land. It's one large parcel owned by one person. So those are all just tenants. Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna have to. So all right, we have to consider that because there's a strip mall, but then there's individual establishments, but I think it's all in one parcel. So I'm going to consider, thinking that, any structures, any structures, establishments that are on one property owned by one person, it's all considered a whole. We wouldn't take each one separate, even though they're individually standing. Is that
right?
sense?
You may want to think about something similar to what we have for like the sign regulations. I think I mentioned this last meeting, where there's an X amount of square footage that's permitted per zone, really, like B1, B2, B3, and then it's up to the landlord or tenants to figure out who gets it. Do they divide it equally among all, however many, or does one get it? First one in gets it all.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Carrie, do you have anything else?
No, that's all.
Well, Ron's not here, so who's the next elder statesperson?
So wait, just one clarification. We're not doing a meeting on the 28th, just so the public knows, correct?
June 4th.
Okay, so no meeting on May 28th. The next meeting is June 4th.
Correct. Thanks.
All right, Harry, thanks for calling me out. I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
I think I'm next. I don't know.
I think I am, to be honest with you.
You are, yeah, you are. Okay.
Harry.
You can't make the
Harry
motion.
can't do it.
Yeah, so I make the motion to adjourn.
So
I'll
just
second.
because I can't make the motion, I'm the youngest person here on the group.
Yeah.
Trish?
I am in support. So weird referring to yourself in the third person. Trisha makes it's like that Seinfeld episode, Jimmy.
Yes.
Trisha says yes.
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
And I vote yes, we're adjourned. All right, everybody, stay safe.
Stay safe.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.